Indigenous peoples are still at war, evidently, with governments and countries around the world because our concerns have fallen to deaf ears, and the political will of governments evidently is lacking since the signing of the Declaration on the Rights of the World's Indigenous Peoples in September of 2007. And so it is that our efforts in these next 2 days of Monday and Tuesday, beginning of the high-level plenary meeting, we will encourage governments to consider the possibilities of strengthening the Declaration on the Rights of the World's Indigenous Peoples to that of a convention on the rights of the world's indigenous peoples, which we also feel is a procedurally democratic process to initiate. So we hope that the government states who are here will consider directing the Economic Social Council, in turn calling on the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues at its 15th session in 2015 to consider a study, a preliminary study on the possibilities of upgrading the Declaration on the Rights of Indian People to that of a convention. And so we have several people here in quick order. I have William Simmons on my left and Madonna Thunderhawk on the far left, and to my right, Mr. Tom Goldtooth, who is also the director of Indigenous Environment Network, and who will be first to express his issues, concerns, and what he would like to encourage.
Peoples worldwide. It was followed by the 1981 Conference on Indigenous Peoples and the Land. The advocacy through the past 37 years has led to major developments such as the adoption of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007. In 2013, a historical symposium was organized at the UN in Geneva on a proposal from historian Carlos Mamadi of the Aymara people. It gathered first delegations at the 1977 and 1981 conferences. 7 indigenous youth from different regions of the world, Alanke, Judy, Sharni, Jackie, Morgan, Weyane, and Heidi were trained in filming and in charge of collecting the oral memory of the first delegates. The indigenous youth got to know history firsthand, discussed it, analyzed it, and proposed this video as a result.
Actually, wisdom that is required for addressing the serious problem in contemporary society. Modern societies have broken.
Is law, is the concept that
to emerging issues around energy, water, and climate. I'm here as a representative, as a spokesperson of a coalition of indigenous peoples that are here trying to lift up the issues of the impacts of climate change. We have an inside and an outside strategy. We have people who are accredited that will be here participating in the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples, as well as we have 2 people who are credentialed to take part in Secretary General's of the United Nations Climate Summit, where he has invited world leaders to talk about a very critical issue that's dear to all of us here and the world. So we have 2 people that are credentialed to take part in there. But we are also participating in civil society's activities outside the space here. It's going to be one of the largest historical convergence of civil society, of labor, of people of color, of civil society of the world, of indigenous peoples that are going to be marching in the streets of New York City. It's a global initiative. It's not a domestic initiative, it's a global initiative. And it does bring up the issues as indigenous peoples of frustrations, of anger, but also with celebration, because we have had a lot of success in the many years, and some of the people on this panel had been involved since the 70s in the conception and the need on a declaration at the highest level that expresses those issues and topics that are very important that support the concepts of rights of indigenous peoples. But the challenge is in the implementation of this declaration, implementation at the nation-state levels. And these are the challenges that we have. So the link between climate issues, energy issues, access to water, these issues are very critical. And that's why we're here to support this initiative to call upon the United Nations to start working for a high-level convening to articulate the challenges of implementation, full implementation of the United Nations Declaration on the Indigenous Peoples. Very important. It's a life and death issue to our people. In some of the countries that do not want to implement this, it's open territory, business as usual. Some of the indigenous peoples that are here, that are coming here, whether it's the civil society gathering, marching in the street, it's a life and death issue. It's an example of this in Ecuador. The president of Ecuador has opened up oil concessions in the Amazon. There were promises made that they would not do that. We have people here from the tar sands in Canada. It's a life and issue there. So our question is, how is the declaration being implemented? And how can we work together with United Nations, the donor countries, the NGOs to make this happen? So we're here to support this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom Goldtooth. And so on this International Day of Peace, we ask you to think about why we as indigenous peoples are here. And we have Madonna Thunderhawk, who would like to talk further. As Tom Goldtooth mentioned, the extractive industries and the issues that we are presenting on upgrading the declaration, the issues are not separated. They're one and the same purpose and reason, that is justice. So I'd like to introduce Madonna Thunderhawk, who can talk about a particular article in the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, Article 7, that has to do with children. Madonna Thunderhawk, please.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Madonna Thunderhawk, and I come here from the state of South Dakota. Right now, there's all the issues that Tom had just talked about is what we're facing there with the issue of fracking looming, the pipelines, the XL pipeline. I mean, we're still in the struggle on all fronts, but one of the main ones is our children. And I'm here, took time to come here from South Dakota because of Article 7 in the Declaration. The Declaration definitely needs to be elevated to convention status, so they'll put some teeth in enforcement, because the state of South Dakota is still trafficking in our children, Lakota children, Indian children. They get millions of dollars in federal dollars every year for the so-called child welfare services. So I really feel that it's important for this meeting that's coming up in the UN, and hopefully there will be some grassroots and real indigenous people's points, and it will be heard, and it won't just be on. And this is a massive bureaucracy. We understand that. We've had to deal with this stuff for years. And I was around in '77. I was there when we had the first International Indian Treaty meeting held on the Standing Rock Indian Reservation in South Dakota that started this whole movement going to open the eyes of the UN. Thank you.
Thank you, Madonna Thunderhawk. And for the press here to know that Miss Madonna Thunderhawk has been coming to the United Nations since 1977, as William Simmons here has been coming to the United Nations since 1981, and myself, 2 years later. But we've been coming here for 3 and 4 decades, Tom Goldtooth as well. And I'd like William Simmons to summarize some of our talk before we close. And we'd like to open for questions if you have, please.
I guess the biggest point that we would like to point out is that in terms of unity and solidarity, that all of the issues that are facing us as indigenous peoples, there's no separation. There's no separation on those issues. I know that in the past, people try to corner the issue of one being more important than the other, but today, in these next few days and in the weeks coming, you're going to see unity amongst indigenous peoples from around the world. And we'll be talking about how do we get a stronger voice, not only within the United Nations system, but how do we make it work for us as well. One of the events that we're organizing as the American Indian Movement, AIM West, is we're having a strategy seminar as part of the Global Peoples Coordinating Committee, which was approved by the working group for the World Conference, is a strategy session on how to develop the declaration to that of a convention. And that's being held here in the city at the St. Peter's Church on Sunday morning.
At St. Peter's Church Sunday from 10 o'clock to 1 to 2.
Yes.
And we will have another press conference on Wednesday at the completion of the high-level plenary meeting. So at this time, we'd appreciate any questions you might have in furtherance to the concerns we expressed to you.
Hi, again, Shauna McGee from Kyoto News. I just had a quick question. What do you see as the biggest challenge that you face taking this forward, going ahead? What are the biggest stumbling blocks that you have, and how do you overcome them? Thank you.
Just real quickly, if I may, the purpose of all Indian people being here in the next 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, that is due to a resolution that was introduced by President Evo Morales in 2010, along with 20 other friendly states, quote unquote. I'd like to quote the friendly states of Indian peoples, that they are first on our list to convince, and if not persuade, that our issues are real about the lack of political will in the declaration with Indian peoples on the ground. And we hope to influence them to entertain the idea on the floor, because the final document of the high-level plenary meeting, let's not kid ourselves, it's already done. It's completed. What we want to do is entertain discussion on the floor, directing the ECOSOC and onto the permanent forum of initiating a study, a preliminary study. And as I use the metaphor or the term, it's procedurally democratic thing to do within the UN system. All conventions today emanated or came from a declaration. So we feel that what we're asking governments to do is nothing out of the ordinary. Thank you.
Very quick question, Gianpaolo Pioli from Quotidiano Nazionale. I wonder, how can you use internet and social media to promote your cause beside the convention and at the United Nations and in other places?
One of the strategies that many of our indigenous organizations and also indigenous nations are utilizing is developing media communications teams. For an example, here at the United Nations World Conference on Indigenous Peoples, one of our sisters and also one of our young organizations of Native media are actually contracted to develop the media and to communicate out what we call Indian country domestically, but it's also international. There are indigenous communication portals that have been established, and so we're proud to say that we have implemented those. So if you have websites like the indigenousrising.org, that's going to be community issues that have been addressed. But when there's implementation of development, there's no mechanisms to assure and guarantee free, prior, and informed consent. These are some of the provisions we're really trying to lift up. Concepts that Evo Morales shared with the world and in Geneva with the world governments is not just the importance of the rights of indigenous peoples, because there's no separation also with those expressions of our relationship and our rights and respecting the natural laws of Mother Earth, the natural laws of nature itself. And it does call into question the concepts of dominion over the land. So these are many very important concepts that need to be articulated in the convention that express the importance of rights of indigenous peoples related to the territorial integrity of Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, we do realize the importance of the internet and communication. We've come a long way from the drum. We've come a long way from smoke signals, and we're on our way to a satellite one day. Is there another question, please?
Quick one.
Quick one. We have, yes.
And we'll try and give some quick answers for more questions. Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, James Ryan with Al Jazeera, and a quick answer would be appreciated because I've looked at some of the documents and spoken to some people about this upcoming Indigenous Forum, and I've in some ways struggled to understand what could be different, what it is that you're actually aiming for, what would be the, I don't know, an adoption or a new legal measure that will benefit the rights of indigenous people. If you could really simply explain what success looks like for you over the next couple of days.
Well, I can tell you real quick that this high-level plenary meeting for Indian people, a day and a half to speak for 400 million Indian people is not really fair, okay? When Evo Morales introduced the resolution, we started out with a 2-week conference kind of discussion. That was 4 years ago. And as you can see, it's been down to a day and a half. So, you know, we're...
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I mean, that's all talk. What changes?
Well, the changes that we want now is to influence those friendly states that are referred to initiate discussion, to bring about a study on upgrading the Declaration on the Rights of the World's Indigenous People to that of a convention.
But that's not going to happen next week, no?
It could be in the discussion. We're in meetings and we're talking to governments now because the declaration, or rather the document, the final document is complete already. It's already done. What we can do now is encourage governments to bring it up on the floor and direct the Economic Social Council to call on the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Peoples to initiate a study.
So for you, this big event at the General Assembly, it's a bit of a letdown, yeah?
Well, it's hopeful in that we're on the agenda, you know, and we'd rather be at the table than be just on the menu.
I'm going to have to close it here, but I'll hope you can discuss the
Thank
issues.
you.
Let me first thank the entire Indigenous delegation representing the 400 million Indigenous population and the American Indian Movement, which co-sponsored this event. We want to thank Shirley as well for getting this on the agenda. It's a very busy week, but you've done well making sure that this issue is highlighted. So thank you very much on behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, my colleagues here, and I'm sorry the time is so short. Please join me in thanking the delegation.
Thank you. Thank you.